أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Lesson number 116, Surah Yunus. We'll begin from ayah 75. ثم بعثنا من بعدهم موسى وهارون. Then we sent after them, meaning after the messengers who were sent after Nuh alayhi salam. And who were they? Hud alayhi salam, Salih alayhi salam, Shu'aib alayhi salam, Ibrahim alayhi salam. After those messengers, who did we send? Musa wa Harun. Musa alayhi salam and Harun alayhi salam. And these messengers were from among who? The Bani Israel. Which means that they came after Ibrahim alayhi salam. So they were sent to who? Ila Fir'auna, to Fir'aun. وَمَلَئِهِ, and his elite, his establishment, his chiefs. The word mala is from the root letters mim, lam, hamza, and mil is the amount that fills up a container. Mil'ul ard, we have learned earlier, the fill of the earth. So mala is used for the elite of the society, the rich, the successful, the chiefs, the leaders. Why? Because they fill up the hearts of people with awe. They impress the people. And wherever they go, they take with them crowds. People follow them. So we sent Musa and Harun to Fir'aun and his mala. What does it mean by the mala of Fir'aun? First of all, it has been understood as the elite from among the Egyptian people. Remember that in Egypt at that time, who were the two nations that lived? It was the Egyptians, the Qibt, and secondly, the Bani Israel. The Qibt, they were the masters, and the Bani Israel, they were the slaves. So the mala, it refers to the elite from among the Egyptians. So in other words, the cabinet, the chiefs, those people who were in the government, those people with high positions. Musa and Harun alayhim salam, they were sent to them. The question is, why to them and not everybody? Why? Is that a bias that the messenger is only sent to the rich and the poor have nothing to do with their religion? Because sometimes people object that why are you teaching only the rich? Or why are you focusing on the rich? Whereas the fact is that the message is for everybody. As we learned earlier, that people are on the religion of who? Of their leaders. People follow them. Whatever the elite do, the rest of the people, they imitate them. Without thinking. Whatever hairstyle they will get, the rest of the people will get the same hairstyle. Whatever kind of clothes they're wearing, the rest of the people will also wear the same type of clothing. So people, they follow the elite. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the messengers to who? To the cream, to the elite of the society. Because the rest of the people, they were going to follow anyway. And remember at that time, people did not make their own choices with regards to religion. Remember that. At that time, people did not make their own choices when it came to religion. Who did they follow? The leaders. Whatever their leader did, that's what they did as well. Secondly, mala, it refers to the people of Fir'aun, meaning the Qibt. The people of Fir'aun. Why is it the people of Fir'aun? Because they were the elite of the society. And the Bani Israel, who were they? They were the slaves. Does it mean that Musa a.s. was not a messenger sent to them? Of course he was a messenger to them as well. But he came with a different mission for the mala, and he came with a different mission, different message for who? For the Bani Israel. Because the mala, they were not believers. And the Bani Israel, they were already Muslim. They were already Muslim. So ثُمَّ بَعَثْنَا مِن بَعْدِهِمْ مُوسَى وَهَارُونَ إِلَى فِرْعَوْنَ وَمَلَئِهِ. And how did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send these two messengers? بِآيَاتِنَا, with our signs. What does the ayat refer to? The messages as well as the miracles. The messages that Musa a.s. brought, as well as the miracles that he showed. And amongst the miracles, the foremost ones are which ones? The glowing hand as well as the staff. فَاسْتَكْبَرُوا, but they were arrogant. From what? From accepting Iman. They became very arrogant. وَكَانُوا, and they were قَوْمًا, a people, مُجْرِمِينَ, who were criminals. They were a criminal people. How did they become a criminal people? That first of all, they had enslaved the Bani Israel, the entire nation. And they had oppressed them. And on top of that, when the messenger came to them, what did they do? They refused to believe in him. So this was their crime. وَكَانُوا قَوْمًا مُجْرِمِينَ. So we see in this ayah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Musa a.s. and Harun a.s. to Fir'aun and his people with clear miracles. Why clear miracles? Why be ayat? So that the truth would be evident. And Fir'aun and his people would not find any difficulty in recognizing the truth. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the miracles as well. In Surah Al-Isra, ayah 101, we learn, وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا مُوسَى 9 آيَاتٍ بَيِّنَاتٍ. And we had certainly given Musa a.s. 9 evident signs. 9 signs. And of these 9 signs were what? The staff, the glowing hand, and later on, as we have learnt earlier, the various punishments that were sent upon the people of Fir'aun. Amongst them were the frogs, the blood, the locusts, etc. But what was the reaction of Fir'aun and his people? They did not look at what Musa a.s. was saying. What did they do? They looked at him. They didn't see the message that he was delivering. They became arrogant, فَاسْتَكْبَرُوا, and they thought, he is a man from the Bani Israel. And the Bani Israel, they are our slaves. He is lesser than us. They looked at his worldly status. And they became arrogant because of that and refused to believe. Now, a person who develops this kind of bias, he cannot benefit. And sometimes it happens with us as well. That perhaps there is a person who is younger than us, who is lesser than us, who is lower than us in his position, in his status. And if he corrects us, if he tells us about something good, we take it personally and we take it as an offense. We mind a lot. But the fact is that if somebody is telling us about something khair, they want good for us. And we should accept it regardless of who they are, where they've come from. What should we look at? The message that they're giving. What is it that they're saying? If it's the truth, we should accept it. But Fir'aun and his people, فَاسْتَكْبَرُوا, they became arrogant. وَكَانُوا قَوْمًا مُجْرِمِينَ, and they were a criminal people. And instead of believing, they called the miracles magic. فَلَمَّا جَاءَهُمُ الْحَقُّ, then when the truth came to them, what does the truth refer to? The miracles that Allah caused to happen at the hands of Musa a.s. And also al-haq refers to the statements that Musa a.s. presented before Fir'aun of the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we learn elsewhere in the Quran. That, for example, Fir'aun asked that, who is your Lord? And Musa a.s. told him who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. So al-haq refers to the miracles as well as the messages that Musa a.s. presented. Min indina, from us. Meaning that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had sent. Qalu, they said. Who said? Fir'aun and his people, the mala, they said, Inna hada, indeed this, لَسِحْرٌ مُبِينٌ, surely this is clear magic. Meaning what Musa a.s. has showed, it is clear magic. It's obvious that this is magic. So instead of believing in the truth, they rejected it. How did they reject it? By belittling it. They recognized it, but still they refused to believe in it. In Surah An-Naml, we learn, وَجَحَدُوا بِهَا وَاسْتَيْقَنَتْهَا أَنفُسُهُمْ ظُلْمًا وَعُلُوًّا. And they rejected them. They rejected what? The miracles. the signs, the evidences, while their inner selves were convinced of it. They knew in their hearts that what he was presenting was the truth. In their hearts, they were convinced, but they rejected. Why? Out of injustice and arrogance. Out of injustice and arrogance, they rejected the miracles that Musa a.s. presented. So again, if someone becomes biased, then he will not be able to benefit. He will view everything in that perspective. They considered Musa a.s. to be someone who was lesser than them, lower than them. And because of that, no matter what he said, they rejected it. And they presented various excuses. One of them was that this is magic. قَالَ Musa, Musa a.s. said, what was his response? That, oh my God, I failed? They're not going to believe in me? What was his response? He was very confident. Again, the da'i has to be very, very confident. And look at the confidence of Musa a.s. قَالَ Musa, أَتَقُولُونَ لِلْحَقِّ, do you say about the truth, لَمَّا جَاءَكُمْ, when it has come to you, أَسِحْرٌ هَذَا, is this magic? It's as though Musa a.s. is scolding them. That the truth has come to you, and you're calling it magic? Is this magic? What I'm presenting to you, can this be magic? You see it, and you know it is not magic, yet you're calling it magic? You see it before you. How dare you call this magic? السحر هذا? ولا يفلح الساحرون. And the magicians, they do not succeed. Meaning, if I was a magician, I would not be successful. I can never be successful. I am not a magician at all. So we see that Musa a.s., he was given, as we have learned elsewhere, sultan. Musa a.s. was given sultan by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what does sultan mean? Authority, influence. That he was extremely confident, and he also had this authority. That when Fir'aun rejected him, when Fir'aun called him a magician, Musa a.s. refuted immediately. Musa a.s. was given the ability to argue, to debate with confidence. So we see that Musa a.s. over here, he refutes their accusation very confidently, saying that this is not magic at all. Because a magician, he is not successful. He can never be successful. In Surah Taha, ayah 69, we learn, وَلَا يُفْلِحُ السَّاحِرُ حَيْثُ أَتَى. And the magician will not succeed wherever he is. Now remember one thing, that confidence does not mean we become rude. Because sometimes that's what we think confidence is. That if the other person is yelling at us, we begin to yell at them as well. No. You don't see rudeness over here. You see boldness. You see confidence. He is speaking. He is talking. He is not staying silent and quiet. So, we see that when a person is giving da'wah, when a person is practicing the religion that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him, then he must be bold. He must be confident. As we have learned earlier, أَعِزَّةٌ عَلَى الْكَافِرِينَ. So, and another very important lesson that we learn over here is that وَلَا يُفْلِحُ السَّاحِرُونَ, the magicians, they cannot be successful. وَلَا يُفْلِحُ السَّاحِرُ حَيْثُ أَتَى, that magician, no matter where he comes from, he can never be successful. So if anyone feels that magic has been done upon him, which unfortunately many people think all the time, if they have a headache, or something just went wrong, they'll say, oh, see, somebody's done magic. If ever this thought does come to your mind, remember that a magician cannot be successful. And as we learned earlier, that the Qur'an is shifa. So use the Qur'an to do shifa. Be confident and use it to cure yourself. Now, Fir'aun presents another excuse. And we see that this is the problem with those people who have rejected at the beginning, who have refused at the beginning. That once they don't accept, then they're never able to accept. They will present one excuse, then another one, then another one. So first of all, he says this is magic. Musa a.s. refuted that. Now he says, قالوا, they said, أجئتنا, have you come to us, لِتَلْفِتَنَا, so that you turn us away, amma, from that which, wajadna, we found, alayhi, upon it, aba'ana, our forefathers. Have you come to turn us away from what we found our forefathers on? In other words, have you come so that we leave the religion, the tradition, the culture, the civilization of our forefathers? Is that what you want? You have come basically to overthrow our kingship, our authority. The word litalfitana, talfita is from the root letters lam, fa, ta. Lafata. And lafata literally means to turn something right or left. What does it mean? Lafata, to turn something right or left. And from this, it gives the meaning of to direct something, to put something in a particular direction. And iltafata is to pay attention. What does it mean? To pay attention. So, talfitana, have you come to turn us away? An. See, it's followed by an. Have you come to turn us an, away from? Lafata, what does it mean? To turn something right or left. Direct. So have you come to direct us away from what we found our forefathers on? Your mission is to overthrow our kingdom. وَتَكُونَ, and it becomes. لَكُمَا, for you two, al-kibriya'u, the kingship, the authority, the grandeur. Al-kibriya is from the root letters kaf, ba, ra. And kibr, akbar, what does it mean? To be great. And kibriya is kingship and authority. What is kibriya? Kingship and authority. When a person has greatness, when a person has superiority over all others. When a person has superiority over who? Over everyone else. Greatness. And this word kibriya is specifically used for who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhana bil jabarut wal malakut wal kibriyai wal azama. So the word kibriya is used for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So وَتَكُونَ لَكُمَ الْكِبْرِيَا, and kibriya becomes for you fil ard, in the earth. Meaning you have come to become very great, very high, very successful. You want the power, you want the leadership for yourself. وَمَا نَحْنُ لَكُمَا بِمُؤْمِنِينَ, and we're not at all going to believe in you. We're not going to listen to you at all. We're not going to affirm what you're saying. Remember that Fir'aun, he was a king. And he was a king from Ramses dynasty. He was, at this time, Ramses II. So, Fir'aun was a king, and his focus was on what? On securing his kingship. His focus was on what? On securing the dynasty, securing the kingship, securing that leadership within his family. Because through it, he gained prestige. He gained worldly as well as religious prestige. How? Because of this leadership, because of this kingship that he had. And in reality, Fir'aun was insecure about his authority. He was very insecure. And remember that this is how any dictator is. Fir'aun was a dictator. Because he did not allow any kind of religious freedom, any kind of freedom to his people, at all. They were not allowed to do what they wanted to do. As you may have seen in pictures, in drawings, in their architecture as well, the images that you may have seen, that there is the cream, the elite of the society who is always being served by who? Those who are lesser than the society. Isn't it? Like for example, a woman, she's sitting and another woman is making her hair, or another woman is pouring water. You must have seen such images. So, he was very insecure about his leadership, and this is generally how dictators are, because they are guilty in their hearts. They know that people do not like them, because they have oppressed the people so much. So a dictator always has this fear that my authority, my kingship is going to be taken away from me. And anyone who comes up with something new, he considers it to be a threat to his power, a threat to his kingship. Now Musa a.s., he was telling him, do not oppress the people, let the Bani Israel go. This is what he said to them, let the Bani Israel go. And he said to Fir'aun and his people, don't do shirk, worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Now, can anyone ever imagine that a person is coming to overthrow a king and he's telling him, don't do shirk? Or he's telling him that let these slave people go home? It doesn't make sense. A person who wishes to come and overthrow a king, how will he come? With a force, with an army, with some weapons. But Musa a.s., how did he come? Alone. And when he got there, his brother was there with him. So two people, they come, and what are they threatened with? That you have come to overthrow us. What does it show? The insecurity that Fir'aun had. Why? Because of the oppression that he had been inflicting on his people. Because the dictator knows that he is not liked by the people. وَقَالَ فِرْعَوْنُ, and Fir'aun said, ائْتُونِي, all of you bring me. He said to his people that bring me بِكُلِّ سَاحِرٍ عَلِيمٍ, with every learned magician. Meaning every magician who is knowledgeable. Knowledgeable magician. Because there are people who have learned, a few magic tricks. He didn't want people who had learned a few magic tricks. He wanted learned, experienced magicians. Now Fir'aun, he knew that Musa a.s. was not a magician. But he wished to counter what Musa a.s. had brought with what? With magic. Because that's the tool that he had. And this is the way of those people who are utterly defeated. That when they cannot counter, when they are made speechless before the other person, when they cannot do anything themselves, then what do they resort to? Magic. When they're not happy with the decree of Allah, when they cannot accept the other superiority, the fact that somebody else has been given a blessing that they have not been given, what do they resort to? Magic. And this is exactly what Fir'aun did. Instead of believing in Musa a.s., instead of accepting, what did he do? He wanted his magicians to come and fight the miracles of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fight the decree of Allah. So if anyone resorts to magic, uses magic to harm other people, who is he following? Fir'aun. ائْتُونِي بِكُلِّ سَاحِرٍ عَلِيمٍ, bring me every learned magician. And Fir'aun also knew that Musa a.s. was not a magician. But because he had said that earlier, that this is magic, this is why he was going to use magic to counter Musa a.s. Because the arrogant one does not accept his mistake, ever. He becomes stubborn upon it, even if it comes back to him. فَلَمَّا, then when, جَاءَ السَّحَرَةُ, the magicians came. As-sahara is a plural of sahir. So when the magicians came, قَالَ, he said, lahum, to them. Who said to them? Musa a.s. said to the magicians, that alqu, you all throw, ma, that which, antum, you all, mulqoon, ones who throw. And we have read the story earlier in detail in Surah Al-A'raf, that how the magicians came and how they asked Musa a.s., would you like to throw first or should we throw first? And Musa a.s. told them, no, you present your magic first. You demonstrate what you have. فَلَمَّا, then when, أَلْقَوْا, they threw. And remember, this was not happening in the court of Fir'aun. Where was this happening? Out in the open, before everybody. All the people were brought. And it was the day of Zina, it was the day of Eid. It was the day of festival. So all the people had come. And they were watching this. So فَلَمَّا أَلْقَوْا, then when they threw their sticks and their ropes, then what happened? قَالَ Musa, Musa a.s. said, مَا جِئْتُمْ, that which you have come, bihi, with it, as-sihru, the magic. مَا جِئْتُمْ, what you have brought, that is magic. What you have shown is magic. Earlier, Fir'aun said about the miracles that Musa a.s. presented that this is magic. What did Musa a.s. say? This is not magic at all. Magicians can never be successful. And here, when the magicians are presenting their magic, Musa a.s. says, this is in reality magic. Not what I showed to you. What I showed to you was a miracle of Allah. What these people are showing is magic. And what is the reality of magic? What happens to it? Inna Allah, indeed Allah, sayubtiluhu. He falsifies it. He renders it void. Sayubtilu from the root letters, batalam. Batil. What is batil? False, that which is invalid, that which is void. So yubtilu, He will make it void. He will nullify it. He will abolish it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will obliterate this magic. He will render this magic void. He will nullify it. He will counter it. Not me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will break this magic. Inna Allah sayubtilu. Why? Because inna Allah, indeed Allah, la yuslihu, He does not reform amal al-mufsideen, the deed, the work of those people who do fasad. So Musa a.s. he says to them over here that what you are showing is magic. And the reality of magic is that Allah will defeat it. Allah will break it. Remember, the power to break any magic lies in the hands of who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not in the hands of another magician. So if anyone ever thinks that magic has been done upon them or upon their family, then who do they need to turn to? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And use the way which Allah and His Messenger have taught us to break the magic, to counter that magic. It does not mean that we should go to others who also perform magic in order to break that magic. Where do we need to go? Who do we need to turn to? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because even Musa a.s. is saying, Inna Allah sayubtilu. Not I will break it. Who is going to break it? Allah will break it. And he says that, Inna Allah la yuslihu amal al-mufsideen. What you're doing is fasad. And the deed of those people who do fasad, Allah does not make it good. Allah does not do islah of it. Allah does not establish it. He does not let it last. He does not make it beneficial. So in other words, magic or that which is fasad, it cannot harm the truth. And what's another lesson in this for us? That a person who does fasad, his work is not granted any success. When a person does fasad, then his work is not granted any kind of success at all. What happens? When people become envious of others, when people become upset with others, sometimes they resort to magic, using magic to harm them. This is what? Fasad. What does Musa a.s. say over here? That Inna Allah la yuslihu amal al-mufsideen. If you're using magic, remember, your deed will not bring any benefit to you. It will not bring any benefit to you. And we see this. That for example, people who use magic, for instance, to break a house, to break a family, to ruin relationships, what happens to them? Relationships get ruined, but at the end, do they get that woman who they like? No. Many times even they don't. So a person who does fasad, his work is not granted any success. So if we want our work to be successful, then we have to make sure that it is free from fasad. That we must use the correct means. We must use the correct means. And this applies to small things as well as big things. For example, if you want to correct the behavior in a child, you cannot do that by yelling at the child. You cannot do that by lying to the child, by using deception and cheating. Because if you lie to the child, if you break your promises with him just to make him listen to you, eventually what's going to happen? He is going to stop listening to you. Isn't it? So if a person uses fasad to do anything, his work is not granted any success. وَيُحِقُّ اللَّهُ الْحَقَّ. And Allah will establish the truth. بِكَلِمَاتِهِ, with His words. وَلَوْ كَرِهَ الْمُجْرِمُونَ, even if the criminals dislike it. What does it mean by this? That al-haq, the haq refers to the miracles that Musa a.s. had brought. يُحِقُّ اللَّهُ الْحَقَّ, Allah will prove true. Allah will show the truthfulness of that. بِكَلِمَاتِهِ, with His words. He has stated that the truth will be successful, and Allah will show the truthfulness of this truth. وَلَوْ كَرِهَ الْمُجْرِمُونَ, even if the criminals dislike it. And we see that Musa a.s., after the magicians, they displayed their magic, Musa a.s. showed his miracles. And Allah showed the truthfulness of the miracle. How? That Musa a.s.'s staff, it turned into a huge snake, and what did it do? It ate up all of the snakes that those magicians had produced. إِنَّ اللَّهَ سَيُبْطِلُ وَيُحِقُّ اللَّهُ الْحَقَّ بِكَلِمَاتِهِ وَلَوْ كَرِهَ الْمُجْرِمُونَ. We learn in Surah Al-A'raf, ayah 118 to 120, فَوَقَعَ الْحَقُّ وَبَطَلَ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. So the truth was established, and abolished was what they were doing. The truthfulness of Musa a.s. was established, and what they were doing, it was abolished. فَغُلِبُوا هُنَالِكَ وَانْقَلَبُوا صَاغِرِينَ. And Fir'aun and his people were overcome right there, and they became debased. وَأُلْقِيَ السَّحَرَةُ سَاجِدِينَ. And the magicians fell down in prostration to Allah. But we see that despite this, Fir'aun still refused to believe. He still refused to accept the truth. We see that his plot, it turned against him. But still he did not get it. And instead, what did he do? He increased his opposition against those who believed in Musa a.s. Remember that after this event, after this incident with the magicians, many people believed. Amongst them were who? The magicians. But what did Fir'aun do to the magicians? He killed them all. As we have learned earlier, he killed all of them. So besides the magicians, there were also some individuals who had believed. The great majority of the believers, they were killed by Fir'aun. So now there were only a few people left who dared to believe from amongst the rest of people. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَمَا آمَنَ. So he did not believe. لِمُوسَى, to Musa alayhi salam. آمَنَ li means to listen to obey, to follow. So he did not obey, he did not follow Musa alayhi salam, illa except ذُرِّيَّةٌ, offspring, some youth, min from qawmihi, his people. Zurriya is used for progeny, descendants. But primarily the word zurriya is used for little children, small children. The word zurriya primarily is used for who? Small children. And from that it is used for progeny, descendants. Why? Because they continue through children. But the word zurriya is not just limited to small children, but the word zurriya also applies to young people, youths. So over here, zurriya is the youths, the young people. So only a few young people believed in Musa alayhi salam. And these young people were from where? Min qawmihi, from his people. Who does his refer to? Qawmihi has been understood in two ways. First of all, it has been said that qawmihi refers to the qawm of Musa alayhi salam. And who was the qawm of Musa alayhi salam? Bani Israel. But the Bani Israel were already believers, weren't they? They were already Muslim. They believed in Musa alayhi salam. But if you see, the word is amana li. This is different from amana bi. Amana bi is to believe in someone, and amana li is to listen to someone, to obey someone, to accept what they're telling you. Musa alayhi salam, he gave instructions to the Bani Israel as well. However, it was only some young people who wanted some reform in the society who listened to Musa alayhi salam. Secondly, it is said that min qawmihi, he refers to Fir'aun. So from the Qibt, from the Egyptians, it was only some youths who had believed, who had listened to Musa alayhi salam, who accepted what he was saying. Why? Out of the fear of Fir'aun. It was only the dhurriya who followed Musa alayhi salam. And who were these people? Who were these dhurriya? Amongst them were first of all the wife of Fir'aun, Asiyah. Secondly, there was also another person who is mentioned in Surah Al-Mu'min, who is described as Rajulun Mu'min, a believing man. We don't know his name, but we know that he was from the Qibt. So he was also of the Zurriya from the people of Fir'aun who believed in Musa a.s. Similarly, it is also said that the treasurer of Fir'aun, he also believed in Musa a.s. And also the hairdresser of Asiyah, she also believed in Musa a.s. And this is based on the statements of some scholars. However, Allahu A'lam, Allah knows best about the reality as to who exactly believed and who didn't. But definitely Asiyah, the wife of Fir'aun, as well as the Rajul Mu'min, they were amongst his Zurriya from the people of Fir'aun who believed in Musa a.s. Why is it that it was only the Zurriya who believed? Ala khawfin, because of fear, out of fear, min Fir'aun, from Fir'aun, wa mala'ihim, and their chiefs, their elite. Because of the fear of Fir'aun and his mala', it was only the Zurriya who dared to believe. What fear did they have from Fir'aun and his mala'? That an yaftinahum, that he would put them in trial. Yaftina from the root letters, fatanun, fitna. What does fitna mean? Test. So they were afraid that if we would believe, Fir'aun is going to put us in a very difficult position. And remember, the word fitna is also used for punishment. So they were afraid that if we believe, he's going to punish us. Because remember how he punished the magicians? He cut their hands and their feet, and he crucified them as well. So they were afraid that Fir'aun is going to brutally punish us, and because of that reason, only a few individuals dared to believe. And why would he punish the people so terribly? Because وَإِنَّ فِرْعَوْنَ, and indeed Fir'aun, لَعَالٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ, he was surely arrogant in the land. Alin is from the root letters Ain, Lam, Waw. And Ulu is used for greatness. And Alin is one who is great. Who is Alin? One who is great. One who is haughty, self-exalting, tyrant. Now what does it mean by the fact that Fir'aun was Alin in the land? First of all, that he was very strong. He was very confident, very bold, very daring, very qawi. Because sometimes it happens that people who are in the position of leadership, in the position of authority, they don't have that much strength. People tell them, we have had enough of you, and they give up after a few days. But there are other people who refuse to step down. Fir'aun was one of them. Alin. Very strong, very bold, very confident, very courageous. Nobody could dare to say anything to him. Extremely oppressive. Secondly, Alin is also understood as that he had supreme authority. There was no one else who was above him. No one else. You see, for example, where presidents or where kings or leaders, they are chosen by elections or something like that, where people agree, they can agree to put him up and they can agree to put him down. The time expires. But Fir'aun, he was in such a position that nobody could say, okay, step down. Because he was supposed to be the God, and he was supposed to be the king. There was no one to take his position. No one who could say anything to him. He was the highest authority in the land. So first of all, he was very qawi. Secondly, he was the highest authority. So this is why he was very oppressive to the people. And if he said something, it would be done. It would be done. So the people were afraid that if we believe, what is he going to do to us? وَإِنَّهُ, and indeed he, لَمِنَ الْمُسْرِفِينَ, he was surely among the extravagant. Musrifin is from israf. And what does israf mean? To cross limits. To cross the limits of i'tidal, of balance. So he was one of those people who commit a lot of excess. What was the israf of Fir'aun? First of all, it is inflicting punishment. That when he punished terribly. We have all heard of how he punished his own wife as well. Just imagine if a person does not have mercy on his own wife. If a person does not have mercy on those people who are working for him, the magicians, they came to him and he relied upon them. But look at how brutally he punished them. So when it came to punishing people, he was a musrif. He crossed all limits. He didn't care. He didn't care at all. And he was also the musrifeen, how? That in crossing his limits, he had claimed divinity. He claimed that he was God. So, إِنَّهُ لَمِنَ الْمُسْرِفِينَ, he was of the musrifeen. This is why the people were terrified. They would not even dare to believe. So we see that the people, after seeing this incident of magicians and Musa a.s. defeating the magic of the magicians, they saw the truth, they recognized the truth, and they wanted to accept. But they did not have the confidence to accept. Why? Because they were afraid of Fir'aun. They were scared that Fir'aun and his followers would force them to leave their religion. And they would inflict a lot of harm upon them. So we see that it was a time of extreme oppression. It was a time of extreme oppression on the people. Dictatorship. That people could not even voice their own opinions. They could not even express their feelings. They could not express their beliefs. They believed in Musa a.s. in their hearts. They knew he was the truth, but they could not express that belief. They could not show it. They could not act according to it. Why? Because of the tyranny of Fir'aun. And it was only the young, it was only the dhurriya, the young people, the daring people who had the guts to go forth and declare their iman. So what do we learn in this ayah? That if a person is oppressive to such an extent that people cannot make their own decisions, then this is Fir'auniyah. This is following the footsteps of Fir'aun. Whether it is in a household, that children are not given a choice, or the wife is not given a choice, or the daughter-in-law is not given a choice, or the son, for that matter, is not given a choice. This is what? Fir'auniyah. That a person wants so much power for himself that nobody is given the choice to make their own decisions. And if they dare to make their decision, they know that they're going to hear it. They know that they're going to get it. But who is it who dares to go against all odds? It's the young people generally. It's the young people because they're more daring. And this happens in every era. That it's the young people who are more daring and they're more open to adopting new things. They're willing to bring about a change. Because what happens to the older generations? They have lived a certain way. They have accepted it. And they think that nothing can be changed anymore. This is what their fate is. They cannot change anything. This is what they have to accept. This is how they have to live. But the young people, what do they want? They want a change. And although they realize that there is going to be hardship, there is going to be suffering, they are willing to bear that hardship. Because they want the change. They have more tolerance to bear those hardships. They're more zealous. And we see that of the supporters of the prophets of Allah, many were young. Even the Prophet ﷺ. Of those people who believed in him, of his companions were some who were young companions. For example, his own wife, Aisha radiallahu anha. The way she learned, the way she taught afterwards, after he passed away, is different from the rest of the wives of the Prophet ﷺ. Similarly, other companions, Anas radiallahu anhu, he was only 10 years old when he was brought to the Prophet ﷺ. And he lived with him for so long, and he taught after him for so long as well. So we see that the young people, they have more energy, they have more enthusiasm, so they are more willing to bring about the change. And we see that at the arrival of Musa a.s., Fir'aun, he increased in his oppression, especially against the Bani Israel. Especially against the Bani Israel. As we learned earlier in Surah Al-A'raf, ayah 129, that قَالُوا أُوذِينَا مِنْ قَبْلِ أَن تَأْتِيَنَا وَمِنْ بَعْدِ مَا جِئْتَنَا. That the Bani Israel said that we suffered troubles before you came to us and since you have come to us. That we see that before Musa a.s. had come as a messenger, the sons, the boys from among the Bani Israel, they were being killed. And after Musa a.s. came, again, Fir'aun started the same thing. That the boys, they were being killed.